I'm sorry, I can't think of Dax without thinking of the Star Trek Trill now.
Of course. Well, that was intentional. No, it wasn't. But wouldn't it be cool if it was named after Jadzia Dax or one of the
Well,
other?
actually, I have a dear friend named her daughter Jadzia
Oh, see, now that's cool.
after the Star Trek character, regardless if that name actually means something in some culture. I don't remember. But
I'm
she
sure it does.
named it, she named her after Jadzia Dax.
Yep. Dax is actually a small town or village in southern France, and it can mean unique, which fits me perfectly. But it's not used in normal parlance, like normal French. They don't use the word Dax for unique. They have another word for that, but it can mean that. I looked that up years ago. Oh, let's see.
Well, I'm just Gary, Indiana. I'm a Jackson 5 song. So,
Yeah. So we're just waiting for more people to show up in here. At least there's 3 of us. Hi, everybody. Hey, it might be you, me, and Gary and Mary.
hey,
Like 4 of us. 4 of
hey,
us. Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
sit, we'll kibitz,
Yeah.
we'll have a little nosh, we'll kibitz.
We're
It'll be
having
okay.
fun. These are our Tuesday lives. We call them Tarot Tuesdays. Now I want a taco because now I'm thinking of Taco Tuesday. Jesus. Anyway, if you've never been here before, and maybe you're watching this recording, this is every Tuesday and Saturday we have these, and you can ask questions and hang out with us, chat tarot. Let's talk tarot. So anything you want to talk about regarding tarot or numerology, you can ask us anything about the guild, or maybe becoming a professional reader or professional reader certification. Maybe you have a question about that. Any questions about the guild, any questions about the membership, and just general questions about anything or whatever else pops in your mind. Maybe you want to talk something way off there. And Reedy Rose is in there. Hey, Reedy. Thanks for joining us here on the live. And we're also going to do some lives where now, if you want the adult rated live, that's the Saturday night one. They get out of hand a little bit, and they only had 1 drink, they swear. But
well, that may be more up my alley. You know me, Dax.
Yeah, but you might have to join us on a Saturday one. But we're going to also, during some of these lives, throw in some things to chat about. And Mary and I are actually going to do a live unboxing and walkthrough review of a deck.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Tarot Disassembled by Jennifer Cooper Stiley. She was a guest on the radio show and was kind enough to send us copies. And it's got the coolest box. So Mary and I are doing that the last Tuesday of this month. What is the last Tuesday? It's the 22nd. So in 2 weeks from today. And let's see, Tamara was on with me last week. Joey is next week, the 15th. I know Sharona's going to do one of these here. I think she's doing March 22nd. Yeah. Mary and I are doing the 29th.
All apologies to Sharona, but every time I hear her name, the Knack song goes through my head.
Yeah. 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 She's actually Sharon, but she goes by Sharona, in her public life. And at least as far as I know, now she's going to watch this and she's going to yell at me. She's like, that's not correct. It's like, oh God. But I swear that's what she told me. And I like it. How many Sharonas are there, right? Magic Universe with Sharona Rapsik. That's her radio show every other Sunday, which actually is coming up this Sunday. Speaking of stuff happening, I'm going to be the guest on Sharona's show. And she had already scheduled to talk about, the Lover's card. And course, that's card 6, and we're in a world year of 6. And I reminded her that. I said, that is perfect. And she said, you should come on the show and be my guest. And I'm like, so Mary said there will be no February 29th this year. That's right. Yes, there's no, it's the 28th. Monday is the last day of the month.
Rini just said she'd love to learn more about, and I'm assuming that's me and not Grr.
Could be Gar.
Gar, your guest, his love or history with tarot. That's an excellent question, Rini. And now let me go ahead and give you my love, my background, and my story with tarot, because it's not the usual story that people have with tarot. Because most people come to tarot because they are interested in it, or they're gifted at a deck, or they find it through paganism, or they find it through Wicca, and they get into it that way. Me, it was a little bit more base, I would say. I was about 22, 23 years old, and I was crushing heavily on a girl. And we were hanging out in her dorm room. And every once in a while, these people would come into her dorm room. They would hand her $5, $10, $20, and she would take out this deck with pretty pictures on it. And she would throw a couple of cards, and she would pick up this little white book, and she'd thumb through it, and she would answer whatever questions they had. And after about the third or fourth time this happened, I asked her, what's going on? What is this? And she explained to me that it was a tarot deck and that you could tell fortunes with it. This is what she said. And of course, my mind being the way it is, I went, aha, this is the way I can get close to her. And so I went out and to my local metaphysical bookstore, and I bought a tarot deck, the Merlin Tarot, because I'm a huge fan of the Arthurian legends and of Merlin of the Magician, and which incidentally is one of the worst decks you could ever try and start with, because it's not a traditional tarot deck, and I didn't learn that until years later. In any case, the next week, I was speaking with her, and I said, hey, I just bought a tarot deck. Showed her the box. I said, maybe you can teach me a few things. We can get together and you could show me how it works and I can learn from you. And she looked at me and she said, I don't believe that crap. I just do it to get beer money. And I was crushed. But now I had this tarot deck. I figured, let me see what it was all about. And I tried my best to connect to it and to learn it and to study the book that came with it, which is, it was like an 80 or 90 page book. It wasn't one of these little white book pamphlets that get through it. And try as I may, I just couldn't do it. I had some success. I got to the point where I was able to read a 3-card spread, but with the book, but that was about it. So I put the deck away, and years went by, and I kept trying to connect and reconnect, and nothing ever happened. So now let's fast forward till about 2005. The deck has been pulled out every once in a while, but I never really connected it. And I'm living in Jacksonville, Florida at the time. And I was going through a divorce. I'm walking my dog around the complex that I used to live in. And there's this old woman sitting on her patio smoking a cigarette. And she pulls me over. And she tells me she's sorry about what I'm going through. Of course, if you've ever lived in a gated community, it's a veritable Peyton place, right? And we started talking, and then she said, well, why don't you put Abby away and come back and have a cup of coffee and we could chat? I said, okay. I put my dog back. I went back to her apartment. I wasn't in the apartment for more than 5 or 10 seconds. When she turned around, she said to me, do you read tarot? She pronounced it with a hard T. And I said, well, I tried for many years. I can't connect to the deck. But to be honest, I was thinking about getting back into it now that I really know what's going on. I first learned about then the Rider-Waite deck and everything that went along with it. She looked at me and she went, you should do that. You've got the gift. And she ended up telling me that she referred to herself as an old Greek gypsy, came from a long line of Greek gypsies, and she was my first tarot teacher.
I love
Uh,
it.
I ended up getting my first deck shortly after that, a Rider-Waite deck that I bought off of Amazon, and just started to dive into it at that point and really, really learn about tarot. And ever since then, it really has become a trusted companion, a wonderful thing for me. And I just love using it and doing it. I read professionally less now than I did back then. And that is how I got into tarot and where I am now and have the love of it. And just studying it and continuing to learn and realizing that I'm never going to learn everything, but boy, there's an awful lot to go through. And that's part of the joy that I get from it. So while most people get into tarot because they feel called to it, or they feel connected, or they want to connect to spirits or whatever it is, I wanted to get close to a girl. I mean, I wish it was a better story, but there it is.
You know, I was going to say the opposite. I think you have one of the best stories. I just love that. You know, I don't have a succinct story like my gypsy great grandmother, you know, gifted me her 500-year-old deck, you know.
Oh, yeah, and she was a character, man. Oh, Anne was a character and a half. Made the best grape leaves I've ever tasted in my life. But she was definitely a character. Oh, my Lord.
That's a great story. I'll tell you a little bit about mine, but I was saying in the comments to Mary, write this down. This is another great idea. We'll do these video shorts, and we could take yours right out of this video, and just have everybody tell their tarot story, and that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's really a great idea for that. I love that idea.
Maybe like 5-10 minutes, you know, maybe a little longer for some people if they have a really good longer story that's 15 minutes long, but you know, 10 minutes in 5-10 minutes in video is long. And so we'll pop them up on the YouTube channel and the video section on the Tarot Guild website. And yeah, that's some great content because people have fascinating stories. You know, I'm sure Mary's talked about it before, but I don't remember ever having her just, okay, Mary, sit still. Okay, now you're going to tell us your tarot story. You know, I've talked about it over the years. You know, the first time I saw tarot was probably James Bond, Live and Let Die.
Oh, yes.
And the cards kept popping up in all my favorite 1970s TV shows. Boy, am I dating myself. So I was a kid, and, you know, and I really couldn't get into it because, okay, things were different back then, folks. Okay. There was no internet. You couldn't go on Amazon and order a deck. You would have to work at it to get a deck, you know, metaphysical bookstore or something. And to go to my Catholic parents and grandparents, you know, I want a tarot deck for my birthday or something.
That probably wouldn't have went over very well.
No. But eventually the internet, you know, kind of sort of started coming along. I still didn't buy a deck. Might have read a book or two, but then I got sucked into sacred geometry, and I just studied sacred geometry, studied let's see. I almost said Kabbalah, but not Kabbalah. Well, numerology, let's say that. It kind of was like a sacred geometry to numerology kind of thing.
Like gematria kind of thing?
Well, no, it was just Pythagorean numerology. I've tried a couple of times to look into some of the other systems, and it's just too confusing for me. Same thing with astrology. Oh my God. You know, I do the sun signs and that's it.
I'm diving into astrology now. I was always one of these people that didn't really put too much emphasis into astrology. Right. I
Mm,
always considered it a little bit of a pseudoscience and everything. And
mm.
then I recently started to read a bunch of books by a gentleman by the name of Graham Hancock. Wonderful, wonderful books about, I guess you can call it alternative history and the stuff we're not being taught in school.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And a large part of his books, regardless of what the topic is, goes back to ancient civilizations, the people that we would consider dumber and technologically not as
Mm,
advanced as we are. And he puts forth the theory that they were actually very advanced and they used the stars for everything, not
mm.
only to measure distance and to figure out seasons and planets and cycles for the planet and cycles for planting and cycles for women. And that was really where astrology came from. And we can see this in the different structures that are out there, that the Sphinx in England, just in England, listen to me, I'm sorry, I haven't had coffee yet. The Sphinx in Egypt, there we go,
You were thinking of
is,
Stonehenge.
yes, has the head of a lion because it was in the age of Leo. That is, that the world was in that 2000, and I think it's like 2120 something year cycle
Right.
where we were in Leo. And that is a very precise measurement, the way it moves. So there is a lot of science. And I started to dive into it. And the first time I started, I read my birth chart, got my birth chart and started to read it, had my books. I felt so called out. It was like somebody just put everything good and everything bad. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be something here because I can't disagree with anything I'm reading now. And I'm
Mhm.
starting to learn it now and starting to tie it more into tarot now, because
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Rider-Waite deck and what Pamela Coleman Smith did with the imagery and everything going back to astrology in there. And it's just another layer. It's fascinating for me. It really is.
Oh, let me on a total tangent. Are are you hearing my mic pick up any background noise? I'm just asking because there's
No.
been some noise. Oh, good. Yeah, it's supposed to do the noise canceling thing, but you never know if it's actually doing it until you listen to the recording. So I just wanted to check because I can mute myself, and I love the Zoom here because you can mute yourself and then hit the on the Zoom, you can mute yourself and you can hit the space bar to talk and then let go and it mutes you again. I think, God, I wish Blog Talk Radio did that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but
couple of things.
before you jump in there, I just see in the comments that Taro Vita asked about the astrology. Yeah, but doesn't Pluto not being a planet mess everything up?
Yeah. Yes, it does.
And the way that I'm learning now is with the 8 or the 10 classic planets, and we still use that. So regardless of whether Pluto is a planet, a microplanet, or just Mickey Mouse's dog,
Mhm.
um, I still
Well, it doesn't
use
matter. It's not like Pluto disappeared because we decided it wasn't a planet.
ex-
Come on, it's still there.
exactly, exactly. It
Yeah.
still has influence.
Yeah, and I mean, you could say the opposite. Well, what about when they finally get a fix on Planet 10, and doesn't that mess up the zodiac? No, because the other ones were still there. You're just adding something else in, maybe, if you even do that. Anyway, that's my take on it. But I wanted to mention a couple things because you brought that up. One is, gosh, I don't have the date here, but maybe I can get it real quick because Sharona is going to be talking on this in one of our workshops. And let's see, astrology for tarot readers, Sunday, June 19th. So mark it on your calendar. It's a ways away, but it's coming. She's also doing Kabbalah for tarot readers.
Oh, cool.
And I'll be doing, actually with Sharona, we're doing numerology for tarot readers.
Okay, those are 3 episodes I'm definitely not going to miss.
Yeah. Sunday, March 20th is, if I have this right, if it hasn't changed, Introduction to Numerology for Tarot Readers, plus a general Q&A with me and Sharona. That's going to be fun. And as I already mentioned, I'm on her show this weekend on Sunday I did want to mention something else that came up in the chat, which was Mary, because we were discussing about all these, connections to the tarot. She had mentioned that she can't wait till we have Daniel on this Saturday. He's actually, I love it because he's an Air Force veteran, and Daniel Loeb, and we're going to be talking about Kabbalah and alchemy and Rosicrucianism with the tarot, and his deck, Rotamundi Tarot. So that's going to be great. That's on Saturday on the radio show. Can't
That's
wait.
going to be cool.
Good to be good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. What else is going on? Yeah, I could never, you know what I do is I use the sun sign. Sometimes I'm doing a reading and something comes up in the spread and I'll say, would this person happen to be like an earth sign? And that is the most I do with astrology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I prefer to stick with the numerology. It works easier in my head. And getting back to my tarot story, so I was studying that stuff. So unlike people that discover tarot, they start studying it, they go, oh, there's all these cool associations. So they start picking up astrology and Kabbalah, and they start picking up even high magic and numerology and things like that. I kind of came the opposite direction. So I learned sacred geometry, Metatron's cube, the Platonic solids, flower of life, numerology, and then I got into tarot. Now, as I had mentioned, I had been exposed to tarot going all the way back to, I don't know if that's late 60s, early 70s. It might have been like 71 when Live and Let Die came out. I can't remember. Someone could look that up and let us know.
I think it's 73. I'll let you know in a second.
Might have been 73. Yeah, might have been. It was right around in there. And, so I was interested in it, definitely, but I was a kid. There was no way I was going to be able to get a hold of a deck and that day and age, and I mean, maybe if I worked really hard at it, but I wasn't that interested that I was going to, turn the earth, to get to overturn every rock to get one, And so I had to wait till I was actually an adult, to get my first deck. But I never had the opportunity to go and buy my first deck because my first deck was gifted to me, like the old myth, which is, it's a myth, folks. You can go out and buy your own deck. It's all right. But I was lucky to be gifted one. I was born in the year of the dragon, and on my birthday, a friend of mine gave me the Dragon Tarot. And he had dabbled a little in tarot and had lots of, I don't want to say lots, but 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tarot books, And he said, here, borrow these. He just gave me all of his tarot books and that deck. And I started reading the tarot books. The Waite Smith deck obviously kept showing up, especially back in those days. And so I was like, I have to get me one of those. So I bought a universal Waite.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's how I got hooked. And so there I am, I'm studying tarot. And I'm like, wait a second. You've got these 5 suits, the 4 minor suits and the major arcana. I call it a suit, 5 suits. You've got 5 platonic solids and 5 elements. And wait, everything's numbered. You have all these numbers. And I started playing around with it and looking at what the books were telling me that the cards were about and so forth. And it was all numerology.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing was numerology. Think of a grid, numerology, this side 1 through 9, and going down the side, the 5 platonic solids, the 5 elements, and it made perfect sense to me. Perfect sense, so I straight away started applying numerology, and I've never read much like a regular tarot reader. I always have the numerology component going on, and I'm always looking, got the traditional meanings, but I always have, I look at the symbols.
Mm-hmm.
I might be drawn to a particular symbol. Why am I being drawn to the snail on the, wait, what's the snail on again? See, my mind blanked. You could be a tarot master, folks, and forget something on one of the 78 cards.
I
There's a little snail, you know, and it's just, oh, you need to slow down, you know. So doesn't have a lot to do with the meaning of the card, but you know, it fit for the reading kind of thing. But a lot of it has to do with the numerological and elemental associations for me, you know. So I came at it very differently. Then when I started teaching tarot, I like to say at the end of the last century, because it makes it sound so long ago. But 1999 through early 2000, somewhere in there was when I started teaching tarot, and then we started the Tarot Guild in 2004. And I've always done it this way. I've always taken the deck and broken it up by number. So you have all the 1 cards and all the cards that reduce to 1, and you have all the 2 cards and all the 2 cards that reduce to 1, because you have the majors, you know, and associated the master numbers to the core cards. Discovered that along the way too, because I was trying to fit it into numerology. I'm like, oh, I don't have to fit it into numerology. Numerology fits into it. You know, when you actually look at master number 11, 22, 33, 44, they fit perfectly the pages, knights, queens, and kings. And so I've been teaching it that way for coming up on 20 years or more. Might be more than 20 years. Yeah. At this point, it's probably around 2002 when I put my first course together, I think. So yeah, 20 years exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I've always taught it that way. And, you know, that's how I kind of a circular way, you know, got into tarot, you know, and I don't have one of these really great stories, you know. It wasn't to get the chick, and it wasn't because my grandmother was a gypsy with a 350-year-old deck that she gifted me when I turned 18, and the power was bestowed upon me. And
Well, I
it'd be
don't
cool to have
think
something.
and, you know, I don't think it's that, you know, melodramatic in my story. It's just,
No.
you
I'm
know,
not talking about your story. Your story was the get the chick. And then there's all these other people have their story where they are the 10th generation medium, the 4th generation tarot reader. That's what I meant.
yeah, no. Yeah. You know, I guess it doesn't matter how you come to it as long as you do.
Oh, Gary says in there, I studied Golden Dawn material before I took my first tarot class. And so numerology was huge. And Mary reminded me, 9 of Pentacles. I could not remember what it was. 9 of Pentacles. And, you know, that kind of makes sense. But, you know, sometimes you're just drawn to a symbol. You see that little, you never even noticed it before. There's that snail down there, and it fits perfectly with the reading you just happen to be doing, you know? So yeah, I go by the symbology and just reading literally. But I also do a ton of the numerology. And when I do a reading for somebody, when it's an actual client that's hired me, I always do a numerology chart first. And it's fascinating, Gary, because you do their numerology chart. It gives you a ton of information. So you already know the kind of person you're working with just by the and then you send it to them before the reading. And it's fascinating almost all the time when we get together for the actual session and we start the reading, and they'll tell me, yeah, I went over what you sent me in the numerology report, and it answers like 3 or 4 of their questions right off the top without us pulling any cards. And so then they come up with new questions, and then we pull cards. Yeah. And as I'm doing the reading, I'm looking for things from their chart to show up in the cards, like am I getting their life path number a lot, or their attitude number, or their destiny number showing up all the time in the numbers in the cards, things like that. And so it's a great way to enhance your practice. So for all the professionals out there, this is a little pro tip, is you can add value to your readings by adding something else to what you do reading the cards. So in my case, adding numerology. So I make up a numerology report, I send it to them. That's something they can keep sometime. So it adds value to the reading they're getting, but also sometimes they go, well, what about my spouse's? You know, so then they end up buying a report from you. So, and you do a compatibility analysis, and then maybe that spurs another reading. See how things are snowballing with that, you know? But even if it doesn't snowball like that, even if it's just you're giving them the reading, this is adding value to the reading. And whenever you add value, you add worth. So not only is it more valuable to the client, but also you can charge more because you're doing more. Something else that's not related to like associations that you could add is, you know, how we recommend everybody take a life coaching course and get certified as a life coach, because then you can add that in with your readings, and you can do your readings, numerology, and do life coaching with them, which makes your sessions infinitely more valuable, you know, because you're not just giving them information or predicting the future, but you are helping them design and create their future, which I think is infinitely more valuable, you know. God, who was it that said the best way to predict the future is to create it?
Oh, I do not remember.
He was a the usual reference is he was a IT computer scientist. He invented Gooey. It's the guy that invented graphical user interface. And in a 1971.
You're not talking Steve Jobs.
No,
Because Jobs didn't
the
do
guy
GUI.
Gooey was invented way before Jobs.
Yeah, well, yes.
Jobs stole it from him. Gates stole it from Jobs. That's how it went. But they don't talk about this part. They don't talk about the where GUI actually came from. So I'm going to type it in Google and see if I can find it.
I know, and this is way off the beaten path of tarot, but the story of how Steve Jobs came across what would later become the Macintosh was he was a grad student on a tour of the Xerox factory, the Xerox headquarters. And there was this machine in a closet that had a mouse the size of a shoebox, and the computer was, well, what computers were back in those days. It basically took up the whole closet. And Jobs asked them, what is all that? And they said, oh, that's just something we were working on. It never worked out. And Jobs said, look, I'll give you $500 for it. And they sold it to him. And he worked with that, and he came up with what he was working on was the Lisa. And Steve Wozniak, who was his partner, was working on what would become the Macintosh. So that GUI interface was actually bought by Steve Jobs from Xerox, because Xerox couldn't figure out what to do with it.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Yeah, there's a lot of, it's attributed to a lot of people. And the guy I'm thinking of, I think is, gosh, I just had it, Alan Kay. So he was he was the computer scientist, but they've attributed it to Abraham Lincoln, Peter Drucker, you know, all these different people. When you look it up, I mean, pretty much everybody has actually said the quote. I mean, Jim Rohn, Walt Disney, Henry Ford, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. Mark, you did not invent that quote. I'm sorry. You're 12. You're 12 years old. You know, but what I think is it was different versions of the quote throughout the years, you know. Now I got to get back to the live because I dropped off the live when I was doing that, but I'm going to bring it back up here. Anything good going on in the quotes? By the way, you know, we should throw out there, if you have a question, that's what we're here for. And it could be the kind of question where it's like, you want us to pull a card for you, or it could be the kind of question where, you know, you want to ask something about tarot, numerology, the guild, becoming a life coach, being a professional reader, getting certified. So if anybody has any questions, pop them in the chat there, or the comments. I call it the chat. Mary Brown, Zuckerberg created everything. Ah, jeez.
Yeah. Okay. Zuckerberg didn't even create Facebook, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah. There's so much. There's so much. Oh my. So let's see. Oh, I forgot to ask you, was there any little things you wanted to chat about besides your story? Because I know sometimes we bring little topics we want to
Well,
dive
I
into.
think I think that it would be really interesting if we dove into what members of the Tarot Guild could expect in 2022 as far as professional development is concerned, as far as learning tarot is concerned. We touched on a couple of things, which was associations of other systems, whether they're astrology, whether they're alchemy, whether it's numerology, and how they tie into tarot. I think all these things would be great things to discuss.
Before we go anywhere, I just remembered two things that I didn't want to forget, but I forgot. I had a senior moment. One is to, you know, formally and publicly, because we did this on the Q&A, but that's private for the premium members. So here publicly on the group, we have to congratulate Gary here, who just received his Certified Tarot Master certification. Congratulations. I wish I had an applause button, but that's only on the radio.
Thank you.
Yay.
And Rini is asking in the chat, what decks do you prefer to use?
Okay,
she's asking this too.
Before you get into that, let me finish all this because I'm going to forget again, Gary.
Okay.
Let me get these all out. So, okay. Congratulate you on your Certified Tarot Master. Also that you joined the board, and to let everybody know what you do. So, you know, you're going to be our Director of Professional Development, working closely, obviously, with the Director of Education, Sharona Rapsy. So the idea is that's Gary's bag, folks. You know, if you didn't know anything about Gary, you know, marketing, funnels, getting the word out, you know,
book publishing.
Yeah, all the different platforms and publishing and things like that. And so Gary's going to help all of our professional members with that angle of things. I also did want to mention that just today, I guess I should, a lot of people might not have even known that she briefly went away, but Corby's back on the staff. You know, we did a little shakeup in January where we start fresh for 2022 and cleared the slate. And we asked everybody individually, are you sure you want to be on staff and do this? You know, and then we brought people back on, you know, and then Gary and Corby came back on, and she's basically an advisor at large. She's our elder, one of our elders, and our other new elder advisor at large is Pamela Steele. Pamela Steele joined the staff today.
Oh, cool.
So we're excited to have Pamela. If you don't know who Pamela is, well, you must have never gone to a reader studio, you know, in New York. She's done presentations, and of course she created the Steel Wizard Tarot. What's her latest tarot? No, she just did an Oracle deck. Mary, I forgot. type in there what the Oracle deck is. She's going to kill me because I can't remember the Oracle deck. We just had her on the show, actually. But Mary will let us know what is the name of her new deck. I may have to do a search on Psychic Talk real quick here. And so I think that's all the announcements. Now, getting back to decks we use, what was the question?
Okay, Rini asked, and before we go into that, I'm going to jump ahead, Rini. Don't worry, we'll get to the decks we use. But Tarot Vita asks, can I tie my already paid for .com to the Tarot Guild site?
Well, of course. Now, it depends on what you want to do with it. If the idea of your URL that you've already purchased it, you know, so like I have daxcarlisle.com. You can take any URL and point it to another URL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I haven't done it yet. Actually, it takes you to my website, which is, yeah, don't go there, folks. It's like half built anyway.
You sound like me.
Yeah, but you know, I'm doing everything through my page, dax.thetarotguild.com. And when you're a premium member, you get a URL like that. Like Gary has, you actually have two, Gary. You have gary.thetarotguild.com. You also have thattarotguy.thetarotguild.com.
I actually forgot about the first one. Okay.
Yes, you have the Gary one, you know, which I highly recommend people actually use their actual name unless they've really built their brand. You're working and have been working on building that tarot guy.
Yes.
But for the average person out there, social marketing, that is how people buy things now. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's a service or it's a product. So you are your brand. So, you know, if you are trying to maintain privacy from your muggle life and you want to use a pseudonym, that's perfectly fine. But stick to it and use it across all platforms. You know, Tarot by Sharona, you know, that's Sharona's Rapsix thing, you know, kind of thing. But I mean, in today's day and age, most of us don't have to worry about this, but there are a few people that still feel the need to keep some anonymity. That's fine, but you know, use a picture of yourself, even if you have to doctor it so it's no one knows it's actually you. That's fine. And use a proper name, Mary Brown, because people only nowadays buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And so you want to brand yourself. You are the brand. Now, as far as the URL, if you want to use your page on the Tarot Guild website as your website, because, hey, our pages, for those of you that don't know, and you don't even have to be a premium member, you get a free one when you sign up for the website automatically. It's completely customizable. Now, if you become a premium member for $1 a month, in addition to all the workshops and everything else, and getting your membership certificate and everything to put on the wall and so forth, you get the custom URL. You can also get a custom email address too. If you're doing a lot of business, you know, using the guild as your backdrop, your name at thetarotguild.com, you know, we'll give you one of those too. But you don't have to, because you have a page. It has its own URL. It's just a long one. It's thetarotguild.com/members/your name. You know, for some people that'll be fine. But, you know, on your page, you know, when you become a premium member, well, first of all, I should stick with the free stuff. You know, you can still post on your wall. You can post on, your activity feed like Facebook, you know, and so forth. And that'll show up on the main site, as well as everything you do will show just on your page. But when you become a premium member, you can also put your own content, like the article section, where you can post articles or use it as your blog. And so that'll all show up with everybody else's articles in the article section, but it'll show up on your page, just all of yours. So you can go read my articles, send them to your page, and all your stuff will be, all your content right there. Videos and I'm trying to think of what else. You can create a group. Maybe you have a topic you want to create a group around. You're allowed to do that as a premium member. So the point I'm getting at is that your page is not just this static page. It really is like a whole, your own website on the tarotguild.com.
And Tara Vita, the only thing I will add to what everything that Dax is saying is it really depends on how you're using your website. If you already have a business name established and you bought the URL about that business name, then you may want to consider that making your primary page, because it's not going to only show your tarot business, but anything that may be connected to that. And then you can link to the Tarot Guild page and use that page on the Tarot Guild to promote your blog articles, to promote your accreditations, your diplomas, or anything else that you have. This way, you're still building your brand off of your dedicated URL, which would be your business name. In my case, it's thattarotguy.com. Don't go there yet. I'm redesigning it.
Yeah, there we go again.
But that would really be my suggestion, that you could use them both.
I do want to throw out there one caveat. If you've already built it, fine. If you've not built your website yet, but you have this URL, let's say it's your name, like mine, daxcarlisle.com. You can just point it at your page on the Tarot Guild. And the reason why I say that, Gary, is because there's a lot of people when they're new professionals and they join the guild and they don't have a website yet. If you don't have the time to build one, or the expertise to do it, and you don't want to hire somebody and spend $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 to have them build you a website, you don't need to. Just fill out that page. And I want to send everybody over to Corby's right now, by the way, because Corby just updated hers. And let me see if I can pop this in for everybody. Corby.thetarotguild.com. Hopefully that'll work. And when you go over to her page, you can see how she's really spruced it up. When you go over to your page the first time, there's a default header. And if you put in your profile picture, it'll show up. If you didn't, at the time you signed up, there'll be a default one of those as well. Let's see, did it work? Yes, it did. So everybody in there, you can now click on that and it'll take you over to Corby's page. And this is fully customizable. So when you first go over to your page, the section at the top, which will be non-existent because there's nothing in there, but you'll see a little link and it'll say, in fact, I have to go to mine to make sure I'm saying the right thing here. It says edit text. It's a little link. All of our links on the website are in like a reddish color. And when you click on that, it'll open up a full HTML, both visual and HTML editor, where you can add anything in here. You can add your bio. You can add additional pictures. You can add buy buttons or links to contact you, or, you know, mine has a big giant message me button on there, dax.thetarotguild.com. And oh, now I lost Corby's. Gotta go back to Corby's page here. So she took her header that she had already had made up and a recent profile picture that she had professionally shot. And under options, you'll see the wheel, it says options, and in the drop down, you can change your header. You can upload a header, you can upload a new profile picture, and then, as I said, click on where it says edit text, but it's not just text. You can put any HTML in there. And so you can fully customize this page. Yes, the the right side with our quick links and guild news and everything going down the right side, and the activity feed, your articles and events and groups and friends, comment wall, and about will all still be under that. But she's added in her book covers because she's written a few books, all of her links, Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, Pinterest, Twitter, YouTube, and then a blurb from the back of one of her books. It looks like she just took the image Gary and just popped it in there, which is, talk about reusing stuff, right? It's just awesome.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting buzz bombed by a bee here. And you can make this your own. Yeah, the Tarot Guild part of the website's still going to be there, obviously, but it's great, a great way to start out. It's free, and so if you have a custom URL that's just sitting there, you're not using it and you want to use it, go ahead and just point it at this page and you can use it. And you might even want to change the name. By the way, you can change your name on here, and the URL as well. And you might want to change your name to whatever that URL is. So when they land there, they see that same name and okay, I'm in the right place, kind of thing, So anyway, that was my only caveat on that. What other questions did we have?
Oh, let's get back to Reni's question. And I don't know if Rini is still here with us or not. But she did ask, what is our go-to deck? Or let me see if I can scroll back up and follow it.
Sure.
What decks do you prefer to use? And Rini, I hope you're still hanging out with us. My deck of choice to read with, and I didn't start out this way, but for the last 3 or 4 years, I have come to really use this exclusively, is the Rider-Waite deck that I use exclusively. I didn't start using it exclusively till about 3 or 4 years ago, when I really started to appreciate it and see all the imagery and all how in depth this deck really is. And I find it to be just perfect for any reading, from a beginner to an advanced, no matter what kind of spread you're using. The Rider-Waite is my go-to deck. Dax, I can't hear you.
Oh, I was muted. I'm sorry. That happens every once in a while. I forget to come off mute. Technically mine is too, Gary. And although I had been gifted that Dragon Tarot deck, remember I told you, my first deck, and then I subsequently went out to, it was probably Borders or Barnes and Noble, and bought a deck. No metaphysical bookstores in sight, so I had to go, Anyway, and this is pre-internet, mostly, unless you count those terrible 1995 websites and stuff. Anyway, but I got the Waite Smith deck. I think it was a universal weight from US Games, I believe. And then I bought the big giant one. So I could use that for teaching. And I only just recently came across that. Umpteen billion years later, I found it again. I said, I got to start using this in the lives, or not necessarily the lives, but the workshops. It's like, I can make use of this again. It's been with me for 20 years at least. Because that bee is, I swear to God, it's trying to get me. I'm actually outdoors, folks. This is a black backdrop behind me. I'm out on my patio enjoying the weather. It's a freezing 75 degrees.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, we had this conversation in the green room.
It's a balmy 15 degrees out here where I am. So
yeah. So, I always taught from that deck, and I had learned initially from all those books that I got from that same friend that gifted me the Dragon Tarot. And it was a lot of it, especially back in those days, a lot of it was, using the Waite-Smith images and, getting into the nitty gritty detail of it. And it just made, so much sense. When decks started to come out and it started to proliferate, can't talk. I just couldn't make the same connection. I had learned those symbols and the numerology and was just so familiar with the imagery that it was difficult to use a different deck at first. But then I learned to just basically what I do now is when I'm doing a reading in person, I use one of Ciro Marchetti's decks normally, or the Llewellyn deck. I love that deck too. It's Welsh, and part of my family heritage is from Wales, and it's got the red dragon on the back, the Welsh dragon, and it's done in watercolor. Very close images to the Waite-Smith. I would call it like a, what's the terms they use, Mary? She'll tell us in the chat. Clones, or a Waite-Smith clone, or a Waite-Smith. There's another term that people use. And so I'll use a Ciro Marchetti deck or the Llewellyn deck in person because they're prettier pictures. But in my head, when I'm looking at it, I'm translating it into Waite-Smith in my head. Now, when I do readings on the radio shows, on these lives, or anything remotely, I'm using Waite-Smith. I'm using a universal weight, and about the time we started doing the radio shows, about 12 years ago, I started using the Oriflesce Tarot program on PC, which now that I'm on a Mac, I can't use, and it's driving me nuts, So I'm using an app on my phone. But I started using that on the radio shows because I could go push a button, shuffle, push a button, pop out a 5-card spread, click, 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 turn, and it was fast and instant. And of course, a computer program algorithm can shuffle the cards infinitely better than I can in my hands. And on a radio show, when you only got a couple of minutes with each caller, you need to be able to do it fast. And I'm not really a fast shuffler. I'm no card shark, Las Vegas shuffler. I'm like trying to shuffle the cards, So when I discovered Oriflesce, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just going to use this, click. And then there was the whole thing in the beginning, like, will that really work? Not using a real physical deck? Guess what? I've been doing it for 12 years now, and it works awesome. It works just like a physical deck. Absolutely. And, but to get back to the topic, the deck on the program is, you guessed it, Waite-Smith. So that's kind of my go-to thing too, but if you want a prettier deck, if you want, there's so many decks out there. You could still translate into Waite-Smith. It's just when you enroll in anyone that enrolls in my course, I tell them right away, go out and get a universal weight and or a Radiant Tarot, the Radiant Tarot version from US Games. I just like the colors better. And start with that, go through the course with that, and then go find a deck that speaks to you. This deck speaks to me. And you can do one of two things. You can either have what you learned about Waite-Smith in your head and do what I do, translate other decks into Waite-Smith, or you can use the images on the cards. And, it's not that I don't ever do that. Sometimes that actually happens, but, a lot of times I'm just, honestly, Gary, I'm just translating into Waite-Smith,
Mm-hmm.
But I would suggest getting the Legacy deck from Ciro. The Llewellyn deck is, to me, it's like Morgan Greer. It's how it's Wade Smith, but it's not Wade Smith. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a more attractive looking deck, more attractive images in the Llewellyn deck. Some of Chiro's decks, really diverge. Others
Yep.
not so much.
Ciro's first deck that he put out was one of the first decks that I bought when I became serious after talking with my Greek grandmother. The two decks I bought from Amazon were the Rider Waite and then Chiro's first deck, which was the Gilded Tarot.
I am having trouble for some reason. Are you hearing me okay?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah. The only reason I ask is because my internet connection is just like, gee, Zoom is working, but I can't go to a web page. Why is this not working? Unless Amazon is down. I don't know. Could be. So I'll just go over to Chiro's. I was going to go to Amazon and look up some of his decks, but I'm going to go over to Chiro's actual website.
Yeah, I love his artwork. It's just brilliant.
Yes. And, just give them some suggestions like, let's see, Gilded Tarot, Tarot of Dreams, Legacy of the Divine Tarot. That's the one. If I had to say I had a go-to deck doing in-person readings, that's the one. He's done some Lenormand, some Oracles, Kepler. The one I just got is the Tarot Decoratif. And Mary's actually, is that by Mary? Who did that? Llewellyn or US Games? They sent me a copy. And Mary's actually going to get it, and we're going to do one of those reviews like we're going to do for the Tarot Disassembled deck the last Tuesday live of this month. We're going to do one of this new deck as well. It's really nice. I like that one a lot. I think the one that people are going to really like a lot is the Tarot Grand Lux. And he actually has a deck that's the Marchetti deck. And then he's got the Encore Tarot. Mary, is that the one that I think Mary said she was just getting that one. Yeah, the Decoratifs through US Games, Mary says. Mary, is it the Encore deck that you were talking about yesterday, last night, something like that, 2:00 in the morning? Yeah, we have these conversations talking tarot. And yeah, there's just, wow. And the Mystic Palette, maybe that was the one you were talking about, was the Mystic Palette deck. That one, oh my God, the Mystic Palette just really jumps, So if you're looking for something really nice, check out all of Chiro's decks. Now, that said, of course, they're not the only pretty decks out there, folks. There's 5,000 tarot decks, maybe 1,000 in print right now. So yeah, do an Amazon search. But just as far as, my personal, what I would tell people, Llewellyn deck or one of Chiro's decks. And of course, just get yourself every tarot reader should have a universal weight or a version of it, like the my mind just blanked. What did I say, Gary? The universal weight and
Universal Weight.
Oh, the Radiant.
Radiant.
One of those, everybody should have that in their collection, and then of course there's completely different traditions, like Tarot de Marseille.
Mm-hmm.
And the Thoth deck and so forth like that. You don't see people reproducing the Thoth much.
No, well, the Thoth, there may be a couple of reasons for that. I don't know if the Thoth deck, let's see, 1969, if it is in public domain like the writer is now, that could be one issue. And the second is that's a totally different beast. That takes you down a rabbit hole and then some. Full disclosure, I tried to read it. I put it down like, okay, I'll stay with my nice writer weight. The Thoth is above my intelligence level right now.
I cannot get Amazon to come up. I was going to look that up and see who was, maybe I can do it on my phone. I was going to see who publishes it, because that'll let us know. And then, so whoever has the rights and is publishing it, they could get other artists to do versions. I know in Mary's interview with Chiro, he said, it's such a different thing, like what you just said, Gary, because it's such its own standard with it, the images and the thought that, he wouldn't even presume to attempt a replication of some sort of Frieda Harris's artwork.
And it is Samuel Weiser Incorporated.
Oh, you found it. Okay, good.
That publishes it. And yeah, it's a totally different system. It really is. And Crowley's structure, his belief is totally different than Rider-Waite. And the two, they're similar, but they don't marry at all. It's a lifelong journey learning the Thoth. It really is.
And I did want to mention real quick, it was the Eternal Seeker Oracle that is the newer deck that came out by Pamela Steele, who just joined our staff. And also, I want to mention the 3rd edition of the Steel Wizard Tarot is coming out. And when they republish it, we're going to have Pam on to talk about the 3rd edition, because I know there's some revisions and updating and so forth going on. I love that. I remember when it first came out, and it was like a handmade deck, really. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Yeah, and she sent me a copy, and it was huge, and just like, I don't even know where it is now. It's in it's in storage with all my other tarot. All my tarot decks are actually in storage. When I moved out to Arizona, I never unpacked everything. So all my books and all my decks are in storage, except for the ones that I actually use. So was there other questions that we missed?
No, I'm going through it right now, and there's no real comments, questions. Mary wants to shuffle like she's a Vegas dealer.
We could do a mini workshop on that. The best ways to, Mary, are you taking notes? God, we come up with the best things in 2 places, here on the lives, Gary, and when we're sitting on the pot. Anyway,
now, because this is virtual and we could put up any background, we could be doing both at the same time.
Exactly, and no one would know.
Exactly.
But Sharona's just popping in now. We've been talking a lot about you, Sharona. You missed it. But yeah, we mentioned this weekend show and how we're doing that numerology workshop. But back to that workshop idea. Write this down, folks. Our staff people, Mary, maybe Sharona. Sharona's our director of education anyway. That could be one of our mini workshops. And we'll get people that shuffle better than me to talk about it. But yeah, we'll do a mini workshop on the best ways to shuffle the tarot. And I have a way I just call it the chaos method, where I just have, you put down the spread cloth so that you protect the cards, and you just put the cards down face down and just chaos, bring them back together. And what I really love about that method, unlike any of the rifling methods, is that, boy, you just never know with these lives where they're going to go. We're hitting like 15 different subjects. This is so cool. People, if you're not watching the lives, you're missing. What I love about that method is that that is the truest, most accurate mixing of the cards that you can do. More than rifling or overhand shuffling or anything like that. You know, it's like a computer algorithm. You know, it is so mixed up, and you bring them together, and you know, that's like the best, what was the word I was looking for? Randomization that you can do is the chaos method. So I can teach that one, and maybe we have some guys and gals out there that are really good at doing the fancy rifling, shuffling. Yeah, can't do it. But maybe I'll learn if we do a workshop, someone will teach us how to actually do it the right way. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I wanted to mention, because Mary said in the chat right here, is how she's studying Solabusca. So that's another deck, predates Wade Smith, and there's a little controversy over that, right, Mary? You were telling me how the powers that be that know the Solabusca the most, and like Giordano, and she did an interview with Giordano and taking his course, and she's really diving into this deck, and you know, found out that like a lot of the concept for like the what was it, Mary? Like the images on the miners, Gary,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the stuff, you know, that Wade Smith used that.
I saw a post in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in, the Tarot History group. They actually posted a picture of the Solabusca deck, or one of the images, and then the Wade Smith
Side by side.
I use my hand for the 9 of Wands,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the concept of it was extremely similar. The differences in the Solabusca deck, it looked like to be in a kitchen setting, and the man was leaning up against what looked like swords. But the entire the posture of the gentleman, the weariness of the gentleman, was a direct take. I don't want to say ripoff, but inspired, let's say, because I don't know what was in the head, from the Solabusca deck. And it was obvious when you looked at the image.
It made sense, yeah. Well, you know, that's just like, you know, any clone of the Wade Smith deck, and you like a huge percentage of the decks that exist, you know, you look at them and it's like, oh, that's obviously a rendering of this card from the Wade Smith deck, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But Pamela and Wade might have done the same thing, you know, and it kind of looks that way. Mary says her theory is that Wade and Smith lifted the idea of illustrating the miners, plus took images for some of the cards.
Yeah.
They totally lifted the 3 of Swords, took the Solabusca 10 of Swords imagery for the Rider-Waite Smith 10 of
Thank
Wands.
you. Yep.
Put it on the 10 of Wands. Yeah. And so Mary brings this up. It's interesting. So I thought I'd bring it up on the live because she had it in the chat, but also because I wanted to mention that Mary said she's really diving into this. And you can actually take Giordano's course. Is it translated from Italian, Mary? Is it in subtitle, or how's it translated? But what I was thinking was, you know, when Mary, you know, becomes the Solabusca Tarot Guild expert by the end of the year here, you know, or maybe summer, she might do a workshop on it, you know, just a little mini workshop, take people through Solabusca.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's subtitled in English if you want to take Giordano's course on Solabusca Tarot. So yeah, lots of great stuff. Wow. And here I didn't know what we would talk about, Gary, and we've talked about everything.
It always works that way. The universe will find a way, and with you and me, we'll always find something to talk about.
Yeah. What I'm jazzed about is just, and I was telling Mary this early, is just It's the tarot dudes. You know, it's like we finally have some things where it's the tarot dudes, you know, not just me and 20 women, you know, although people get the wrong
What's
idea.
wrong with that?
Like I have my own harem or something, you know, they're going to have the wrong idea, you know.
And what's
I'm
wrong with
gay, folks.
that?
I'm gay. I'm gay. No,
Send
but
them my way. I'm
I'll
not.
send him.
I'm not.
No, but I said that with somebody else too. I can't remember who it was. There was a few people actually. I got excited when Mary's son Connor joined the guild and enrolled in my course.
Hmm.
John Allen came back to the guild. You know, he was doing all the historical decks for the guild back in the day. You might even remember
Hmm.
some of those classes.
Hmm.
And oh, there was another fella that I think was it Dennis or Daniel or trying to remember the name. I think it was Joey Anderson on our staff. She got him into the guild, and we were talking the other day, you know, about like we totally have to do a live at least, if not like a whole radio show, you know, the tarot dudes.
That that
Like you
that.
got that tarot guy, but
Yep.
we're the
Tarot
tarot.
dudes.
You can join us too. We'll have like there's a thing in Zoom where you could put a background and all of us are sitting in seats and we have a panel discussion going on. That'd be kind of cool. Do something like that. But yeah, we got to get the, you know, the tarot dudes into some of these things, you know.
Yeah, I think that would be really good. And of course, as my mind works, that's extremely marketable.
Huh?
Um,
Oh, and
it
what I like about him is he's younger, so we have the cross generational thing going on too, Gary.
oh, okay.
You know,
Well,
between, you know, old me over here and you know, young him, you know, and then you're in the middle somewhere, I think.
yeah, well, Mary constantly refers to me as that youngin. I don't feel that young. I'm not that young, but I guess relativity.
It's all
Let's try
relative.
that one again. Relatively, there we go. I'm young.
So put that, you know, in the back of your head, on your back burner somewhere, that we should get together with him and
Do
um,
the that tarot dude thing,
look
or
about
the
doing.
tarot dudes.
Yeah, and you know, I had actually talked about this with John Allen when he first came back, and he's been quiet for many months, and so I don't know what's going on with him, but I need to get in contact with him, and you know, if he's still up for it, he wanted to do tarot dudes too, so we could, you know, have four of us on there, or we could rotate, or you know, I'm feeling a whole new show coming on.
That's what I'm thinking. Either a radio show or we could take it on the road.
let's let's do a TV show. We'll do a video show like this.
Okay,
We'll strip the audio out, put it up on Blog Talk as a radio show, and then it'll go
there
out as
you
an
go.
audio podcast. But we'll have it on YouTube with live video, which is what we really need for our channel. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. And it is different because I remember when I first started reading tarot professionally. This was 10, 14 years ago, something like that. And I had just set up my shingle, and I had a friend who looked at me and goes, "You'll never make it." And I said, "Why do you think I'll never make it?" He goes, "You don't look good in a skirt."
Oh no.
Because in his mind, in most of the world's minds, tarot readers are women.
Well, sure.
And I think it would be important to show, you know, four dudes of various attractiveness. And oh, come on, that's funny. Somebody's got to laugh.
Okay.
Talking about tarot from a man standpoint, and also just showing that it's there. I think it could be a lot of fun. I really do.
Absolutely. I mean, there's multiple perspectives. There's also the straight versus gay perspective of it.
Okay, and this is a serious question now that you brought that up. And it's going to sound off the wall, but you did bring it up, so I have to ask, do you find that gay people read tarot differently?
Okay, so I wouldn't say differently. However, what I would say is I know I've noticed, having, you know, done the tarot guild for 18 years now, that when I bump into the few male tarot readers there are, 80% of them are gay. And I think it has something to do with, I don't know, I hate to say it, but like the sensitivity perhaps of,
Like an empathic thing going on.
yeah, like women tend to naturally be more empathic. And I think that's why there are so many more female tarot readers. And I think why there are more gay versus straight male. And trust me, there's a lot of straight ones. There's John Allen, there's you, there's oh no, he isn't. I'm trying to think of some other ones.
So there's me.
Yeah. There's oh, well, Chiro makes decks and he's married. No, to a woman. And you have to qualify that nowadays. You can't just say married, you have to say married to a woman. But I think it has something to do with that. It's like built into the gene, the empathic nature of it. And I think a lot of straight male tarot readers come at it very technically. And I see you as one of those very technical type readers.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What I'm saying is that that's why, and also, because being left-brained, but the those that are gay tend to be more right-brained. So
Well,
what would be really interesting is to ask the lesbians, do female gays have more trouble reading tarot than straight women because maybe they're more left brain?
Well, it's interesting that you brought that up, because yeah, I am technical when I read tarot, and the imagery and my whole thought process of how I read and how I teach is you have to get the images down, you have to get the definitions down. It's not purely intuition, right? You do need that empathic nature. And going full circle, calling back to our discussion on astrology, when I looked at my chart, and I am a Pisces, cusp Aquarius, and 8 out of my 10 houses are in Pisces. So I'm just a mush. I'm a sensitive mush.
Well, see, then it works. It totally works. They are laughing up a storm at this conversation. And we should have done this in the beginning. That would have got us a lot of views. But the other aspect, because you asked about it, that I kind of want to touch on is, for one thing, it makes a great niche. If you are gay or lesbian, and so technically, although anybody can read for anybody, you might have more of an affinity for it.
There also may
I'm not
be
describing this well, but
there may also be a comfort level that if someone
Oh,
who
yeah,
is
comfort
gay
level.
needs guidance and assistance, they may not want to go to a straight guy like myself, a CIS
or the other
gender
way
person.
around. Or the way, think about it the other way around. Some straight readers may be uncomfortable reading for, because they don't know the intricacies of that life,
Yep.
Not that it's really any different, because it's not. We put our jeans on one leg at a time.
You put your skirt on the same way everybody
yeah,
else does. We
I
understand.
do put my skirt on just like and do my hair. No, but which I didn't today. That's why I have a hat on. But no, this is fun. No, but really, honestly, I mean, you could really make a great niche, either if A, you are gay or male or female, and B, or you just happen to be somebody that isn't empathic to that. They get along really well with folks, they're straight, but they get along well and have lots of friends that are gay, and they, have heard the goings ons, the breakups, how it's the slight nuance differences and things like that. Make it into a niche for yourself, be the go-to, LGBTQ reader.
And just to piggyback on that on a larger scale, getting just to dip back into business. So many people, when they start, whether it's reading tarot, whatever they're doing, are really afraid to niche down and get granular in what they're doing, because they feel they're going to limit themselves, right? They're going to immediately cut out 80%. Well, that may be true, but those 20% that you're still going to be able to reach are going to love you, and they're going to be your return and your repeat clients. And you can make a living just out of that niche. So Dax, you're absolutely right with that.
Mhm. Absolutely. Oh, just real quick, I wanted to mention in here, because Rini said the British Museum received the Solabusca in 1907. That's 2 years before Wade Smith.
Smith, yep.
And Pamela was living in London. Mary.
She might have been influenced, shall we say?
Mary, the plot thickens. The plot thickens, you know. Yes. Anyway, so I guess we should, now that we're coming up on an hour and a half, we probably should end this. You know, I could talk for 3 hours with you. We'll try to do shorter lives, folks. We promise in the future. I mean, or, you know, break up the topics. It's like, okay, today we're going to talk about, you know, gays and lesbians in tarot, you know, and and then we're going to talk about the Pamela Smith controversy on another one. I don't know.
Can we call it the next time we talk? Can we call it Butch and Beyonce just as a title?
Okay, no.
No, yeah. Okay, just.
But we really should do that tarot dudes thing on the YouTube channel, you know, and we could actually do it as a live here and then upload it to YouTube, or do it as a live on YouTube.
And yeah, we could cross stream it to here from YouTube. I think there's a way that you can do that.
Yeah, there's some third-party platforms that let you simulcast, and that's what I eventually want to do. It costs money, but the only free one I think is OSB or OBS platform, lets you simulcast to multiple platforms at once. Yeah. But there are some really great ones out there that are a lot easier to use than OBS, because I've actually used that before and it's not pretty. Alrighty, everybody, that's our live for Tuesday. Of course, don't forget, gosh, this Saturday, another live with Joey and Tamara. That's the evening one. That's the, you know, grab a drink and let down your hair. Could get wild. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And Mary and I will be on with Tarot Today Radio this coming Saturday. Trying to remember everything. Sunday's show, Magic Universe with Sharon Rapsick. I'll be the guest. And we're talking the Lover's card, the number 6, and the World Year number 6, which is just, I love that, how that it was so synchronistic, Gary, because she wanted to talk about the Lover's card anyway, invited me on as a guest. I said, you know, the World Year 6. Like, the universe is telling us we need to talk about that. Yeah. So lots of great stuff coming up, as well as our workshops and everything. Don't miss the, we just had our first live Q&A, which went over a lot better than I thought it was, Gary. A lot more people attended. I thought it was going to be me and Mary and 2 people maybe, you know, so it actually was great. Well attended. Our next one is Sunday, March 6th. So the live monthly Q&A sessions in the private members group on the website, it's every first Sunday of the month. Our next workshop's coming up Wednesday, February 23rd. So that's next week, right, Gary? Or the week after?
19th is Saturday, so it's the week after.
Okay, so 2 weeks from tomorrow, we have Corby Mitlide from our certified tarot grandmaster and author of multiple books. Go check out her page, corby.thetarotgirl.com. And she's going to be doing her sorting hat spread. Can't wait for that. And then Sunday, February 27th, Mary Brown will be treating us to readings, setting the stage, how to prepare so you can give a great reading every time. That's going to be her workshop, Sunday, February 27th. So there you go, folks. There's everything. We'll see you Saturday. I think it's my, radio show. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks for having me, Dax.
Yep. Bye, Gary. It was great. Had fun.